It's the Progress Report. It's August 17th. You know, I was walking my usual walk on the rail trail in Goffstown, and I started at the Barnett Park, and the kids were already out starting football practice this morning.
Yep.
So, you know,
time coming right up.
because that means we're close to the end of this magical summer of 2022. It's been magical for me, but we are coming up on big times of great importance to our country. And so that's what we're going to be dealing with today. And we are very pleased to have with us today, who could not be with us last week, Alan Raff, good union guy.
Welcome, Alan.
Chairman of the Manchester City Dems. Manchester is the heart and soul of the Democratic Party in the city and in the state of New Hampshire, because we are the largest constituency. And so we want to talk about that. We have, every time we come up on elections, everybody says, this is the most important election.
I know. We're not going to say that, are we? I hope we're not.
Well,
we're going to phrase it in a different way.
Phrase it in a different way.
Don't go away. Stay with us. Stay with us. This is a whole new ball game.
My wife says that every time I go to say that. My wife.
I mean, but every time it becomes more true. Yeah. I mean, it's just really true. So anyway, Alan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry you couldn't do it last week, but we're glad we got you here. Talk about this election coming up and what the Manchester City Dems are doing to ensure that we can not only survive this election, but thrive as a result.
So,
Bob, that's the last question of the show.
Yeah.
You just skipped the whole show, man.
Mike, would you want to?
No, I'm
I
kidding.
can. I'll do the setup.
No,
we can talk for. We have plenty of time to talk about it.
I want to see your video now. I really would like to. Can you do that?
Oh, no, that's not why I interrupted. I didn't.
Well,
mean
I think it's a good reason.
Yeah. Let's go. We'll do the video.
All right. Well, what we're trying to do, folks, is we're talking about, we're getting into the political season, right? It's Labor Day is the traditional kickoff here in New Hampshire. We got a pretty condensed season. We do pretty good. Do it all at one time. And of course, we here at the Progress Report try to provide informative programming for you guys during the election season. We've showcased candidates that we think would be helpful to New Hampshire, and we're going to start doing that. So today's show is to kind of get that process going. And to get the show going, I have a very brief video that kind of lays out what's at stake. So, Brendan, if you could put that video up.
What is politics about? MAGA Republicans believe it is all about chaos, owning the libs, white grievance and anger. That's wrong. Governing is about making our lives better. In just one piece of legislation, Democratic senators took action to lower prescription drug prices, giving Medicare the ability to negotiate with Big Pharma, shifted tax burden from the middle class to the very wealthy, protected our future with the most sweeping climate change action in U.S. history. What do you want? Anger or results?
It's a good one, Mike.
So those are the choices. Pretty quick,
That's the
pretty
choices.
stark.
That's
what
choices.
we're talking about.
Yeah, it's really true.
And I think we can spend the show kind of picking that apart and talking about what we here in New Hampshire have for choices. Because while it's not exactly the same as what's on the national level, in our microcosm, we have very similar debates going on. Let's call it that.
Yep. So
I'd like to start Bob's question off over again in that context.
And Alan, take it away.
So I think what that video shows is exactly right. I think it's what we've realized since 2015 is that what they were going to give us on the other side of the aisle was this idea of chaos. Everything's out of control. The world's on fire. And if you don't vote for us, then it's only going to get worse. And I think that we've seen and we've seen this actually going back to the Obama administration, is that when we run on things that working families care about, like healthcare, prescription drug costs, like jobs, taxes, reduction for middle-class working families, that all of that noise doesn't matter. We still win when we show that, what we do is we get things done. We make it so your health care is affordable, so that every time that there is an emergency medical situation, that you don't have to worry about whether you're going to be able to turn the lights on for your family or cook food, put food on the table for your family. So I think obviously the choice is very stark. Like we said from the beginning, we're not going to say this is the most important election in history, although we always say that. I will say that I think that what we've seen, and we saw it last night with Representative Cheney losing in the primary in Wyoming, is that this is still what the majority of the voting Republican Party wants. They want this chaos. They want this version of conservatism that Trumpism has turned the Republican Party into. And I think that for us is dangerous. On one side it's dangerous, and on one side it's great, because the side that is dangerous is that God forbid that we get another 4 years of Trump, or even if Trump doesn't run and we have Ron DeSantis, who's really just the same thing as Trump.
Let's put a pin in that, because there have been some Democratic committees that have been supporting MAGA Republican candidates on the theory that it's politically good.
Yeah.
And you've already, that's playing with fire. I'd like to, if we get to it, I'd like to talk about that.
Sure. So that one side, we have that danger of that kind of politics becoming the main politics of our country, which we dealt with for the Trump administration. On the other side, it's a good thing, because people see that this is more of the same craziness that they're so sick of. And I think even some Republicans that I talk to are saying, I'm done with this kind of craziness, this Trump show. Like, I just want to be a Republican. I just want to pass conservative legislation. I don't want to deal with this proto-fascist kind of rhetoric, and to have my kids think that it's okay to treat one another like our former president, showed everybody that that's how he thought everybody should be treated. So in New Hampshire, I think that the case to be made, and we're seeing this nationwide since the Supreme Court decision for Roe v. Wade came out, is that there are issues that we are able to, if we are able to communicate them to people, there are issues that cut across the parties, and also that appeal to those undeclared voters that are a majority of the voters. And so you saw that New Hampshire St. A's poll that came out this week that said 71% of voters think that New Hampshire should be a pro-choice. They believe in being pro-choice and not being pro-life and banning abortion.
In the budget.
Yeah, in the budget. So you see in New Hampshire anyway, now Sununu's put himself in a box there, and I think that we have to make sure, and Senator Sherman's doing a great job of making sure that he.
I heard it's within 1%.
Yeah, with the amount of money
right?
Yeah.
with the amount of money that
No
he's
kidding.
raising, it's insane. I know how hard he's working.
I had not heard this news.
Just got this afternoon.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did not see that either. But the way that he's been working, and the fact that he's continued to make sure that he makes Sununu own that abortion ban that was in the budget, is, that registers with people. They're saying, okay, Sununu's literally been talking out of both sides of his mouth on this issue since he was an executive counselor,
Yep.
and now he's got these free staters who have bought into all this and are now he's reaping the whirlwind of this. Like, he's going to have to deal with the fact that he did put that abortion ban in. Democrats are going to make him own that. And as far as the outlook here in the state, back to that, I think that you see, like we saw at the Gunstock Commission recently, and up in Belknap County, that even Republicans are saying, what are these free staters doing? And how did they get so much representation and power in the legislature?
You got that, and you got Croydon.
Yeah, and Croydon, exactly. Which, we're lucky it turned out the way that it did, because
certainly
people came out and saw how dangerous it was.
Activism prevailed.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
This some just rang off in my mind about this. When I watch Fox News, and I do watch Fox News every night because I want to see whatever perspective is.
You're getting ready to lift weights, is what you're doing, right?
I it's not all I watch, but I do watch it. But they very, very frequently will talk about. Crap! I just lost my my train of thought on this one.
The Free Staters.
About taking control of the legislatures.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happened here in our New Hampshire legislature. The Free Staters are a very, very big voice in what's going on.
outsized for how many there are, and that was
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah,
idea
yeah,
of them
yeah,
coming
that's
here.
true.
And I think that you see that kind of thing, like, yes, Sununu is extreme on things that I totally disagree with. But when we talk about extremism and seceding from the United States, and Mike Sylvia refusing to say the Pledge of Allegiance,
My Ward 8
Yeah.
representative,
right. Ward,
who
yep.
has an address up in Hooksett.
Yeah.
I still got to figure that out.
Yeah. So these guys are legitimately about as far extreme as you could possibly get. And I think the majority of New Hampshire voters, now that they're seeing this, like, they had heard about the Free State Project. Democrats have been complaining about it, rightfully so, since we realized what was going on. But now that they're seeing this and it's making news in New Hampshire through the gun stock stuff, and you have other Republicans saying this is crazy, the general public is thinking, wait a second, these people are in the legislature and they've infiltrated it to this extent. Like, this is not something that I'm comfortable with. And I mean, it's tough because you say to yourself, well, would you prefer a Republican or even somebody crazier than the average Republican if you're a Democrat running against them? And do you, like you were saying, Democrats are supporting these MAGA Republicans? Is that something that Democrats are okay with doing? I think that we don't have to make that choice in New Hampshire because
We're not doing that here.
Yeah, we're not doing that here. We don't have to make that choice, luckily. But I think that we have a chance to beat them
I'm
and take
glad,
these free
Alan, you
staters
brought
out.
up the Free State Project, which is something that's distressing me for a long time as a native New Hampshire guy, that they targeted our state to bring on this extreme libertarian, no government good for anything ideology. And they have in the past, and I'm just going to ask you about this, whether this is true today, they've been willing to file on Democratic side of the platform of the ballot as well as on the Republican side.
Yes.
Is that still happening?
That absolutely is
How
still
do we
happening.
find out about that and not permit this to succeed?
So that the difficult part is that I'm the city chair here, and it's difficult to find unless you know the person that's running and know exactly how they feel on issues. If they're a new candidate, how do you know if they're saying, yeah, I'm a Democrat? You can't say, all right, well, let me see how long you've been a Democrat. Let me see that
Yeah,
voter
we're
roll.
a pretty Big Tent party.
So when one comes and says that they are, how do you know that they're not? Well, from experience of watching some of these candidates have run more than once. So you have the Ping married couple, one running as a Republican, one running as a Democrat, I believe, in different districts. I think the float for Ward 1 up at Matt Wilhelm, or Representative Wilhelm's district, you have one of the Free Staters running in that district. So you basically just have to, by word of mouth, seek these people out. And, if you look, you have to look at the candidates and look on their Facebook page.
Can you call them out on some media platform that might be helpful?
I feel like the only way to find out really whether they're Free Staters or not is you check their social media. You see what they've been retweeting, what they've been liking on Facebook. If they've been liking this, seceding from the union kind of stuff, that's a pretty good sign as to whether they're a Free Stater or not. I think that calling them out, we've been trying to do that for a long time, and like I said a minute ago, I think that really the best way to get the message to the average voter who isn't dialed into this stuff is for us to highlight these stories like the Gun Stock Commission, and when, for example...
But that's tough for you in a primary.
It's
You're
sure.
making it very clear. Look, I'm chairman of the city committee.
Yeah.
Democrats are Democrats. I'm a Democrat. Bob's a Democrat.
Yeah.
And we believe...
You can be a different
sincerely
Democrat if you want.
In the Big Tent. We believe in that.
Yeah.
So during a primary, you can't go out and start picking winners and losers.
No.
Now, all right, we all know behind the scenes that can happen, okay? This is politics. It ain't beanbag. I get that. But as far as publicly, putting up a website or something like that, that wouldn't be proper.
No.
So, I mean, I don't know that we should even ask you to do that. But what you can do is begin the discussion with folks. And we can, as an editorial board, endorse or not endorse certain candidates.
Yeah, and I think letting people know...
That's one way to let people know.
And, by word of mouth, and I implore anybody who's out there in TV land who does happen to know of Free Staters that are running on either side of the political aisle for seats in Manchester, let your local committee know, your Republican committee, your Democratic committee, let me know, because they want to know too, because they want to know what they actually have.
Show these people's true colors.
Yeah, because there are Republicans who are good people who don't want to secede from the Union, who will be pretty upset if they get beat in a primary by somebody who doesn't even believe that New Hampshire should be part of the United States of America. And wait, one more thing, just one more thing, and that is on Jason Osborne, the story, the leader in the House who is a free stater, moved to New Hampshire from Ohio to be part of the free state, majority leader, moved here to be part of the Free State Project. He, as a libertarian who doesn't believe in federal government, doesn't want any help from the federal government, shouldn't exist at all, his business was literally to be contracted by the federal government to go after and be a debt collector for student loan collection. So this guy...
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. So this guy was taking federal dollars from the federal government to go after student...
To be a Simon Legree.
Yeah, right. To go around. And so telling people
Slave catcher.
These are what people do. To tell people that this is what somebody like him is doing, there's nobody that somebody likes less than a debt collector, for one. Two, somebody who's a student loan debt collector. And on top of that, he failed at it and had to fire his entire staff. So not only did he take the federal government's money, even though he doesn't believe there should be a federal government, we shouldn't be participating in it at all, he failed at it. And he is the majority leader in the House. And we just need to let the people in New Hampshire know that there are better people to run the House of Representatives in New Hampshire than somebody who doesn't
And they're all Democrats as far as I'm concerned, sir. I don't even know why we're talking about these other guys.
Right.
They're not going to help.
No,
they're not about the help. They're about the power. They're about owning the libs. It is a game to them, and it's about winning and losing. And I tell you, I can't tell you how many times in the course of the week I talk to people, younger people than me, and they're in a little conflict, and it's like, do you want to win or do you want to get a result?
Yeah.
And that can change the whole discussion sometimes, at least in the business I'm in. So I really I don't think we should even be looking over there. We should be focusing on what we can do as Democrats, what we have already done as Democrats. Our congressional delegation, Maggie Hassan, is running for re-election. I've been hearing for a year and a half. It's one of the most vulnerable seats in the state. And, she's got to hold that seat. But let me tell you, I keep hearing on TV that she's fighting Democrats. I'm a Democrat.
Right.
Why is she fighting me?
Right.
So I really wonder.
You and I are both bothered by this.
Can you explain the message?
Yeah,
what are we trying to do here?
So I think that, for one, like we were saying earlier, that the biggest population of people that you got to get in New Hampshire to win are undeclared voters, right?
Oh, yeah. We all know that.
So for one, I think that it's a thing to show that it's not all about party politics, and that if there are things that they believe in as a candidate, as a senator, that maybe the rest of the party doesn't believe in, that if there's one or two issues on things that they say, I'm going to go the other way on, we want to be okay with that. We want to be okay, and it's not, I'm, as a party chair, obviously, in the biggest city in the state, I like when everybody's in lockstep. I really appreciate when everybody is pulling the same way, and that we're all on the same page with everything. That makes my life easier. It makes everybody's life easier.
But that's what Republicans fall in line, Democrats fall in love, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that we have to remember. I think one of the most important things we got to keep telling Democrats and undeclared voters is, like, do you want to see results? Do you want to see things get done? Do you want people to be helped? And if that is the case, then we can't eat each other alive before the general election. We have to realize that.
Yeah, I don't want my vote taken for granted. Though.
No, you don't want your taken. No, absolutely not. And there's a difference between that and slamming candidates when you know that there's actually a binary choice. So like if there's for example, with Senator Hassan, I know that some Democrats have issues with things with her, but one, look at what she's delivered for the state. You can't say that she hasn't done a great job.
Well, we can all complain about things she's done.
And there's always
we got to vote for her. There's no question we got to.
Right, and so the idea, I want to make sure that there aren't Democrats that say, you know what, I'm just going to leave that blank. I'm not feeling that enthused about Senator Hassan anymore. We need all of those votes, and we need
certainly
to be.
do.
It's a binary choice. You either get Don
I'm that
Bolduc.
guy.
Yeah, so it's
hammering me.
It's a binary choice. You don't think that Don Bolduc is going to be better on immigration than Maggie Hassan. You just don't. You don't think Chuck Morse is going to be better on immigration than Maggie Hassan.
And you hit the right issue too, because that's one of the issues that causes me some heartburn.
Yeah, and I understand, and for a lot of Democrats too. Exactly. But I think that we have to be, just like the Republicans are, we have to be realpolitik about this and realize that this is a binary choice, and that if you let yourself get carried away with those things and say, you know what, I'm going to sit sit this election out, or I'm not going to vote for Senator Hassan, then we have a very real possibility of the creep of fascism continuing further.
Oh,
ahead.
that's just the thing that bothers me.
And I'm hearing
so much.
also, that the Democrats stand a very, very good chance of holding the Senate and might even be able to increase, hopefully 2 seats, so we don't have to worry about those. What do they call them? Dinos? What would you call that?
Call them mansion and cinema.
Yeah.
That's what you call them.
Yeah.
Hey, we're about the time we usually take a break.
Let's
You
take a
want-
break and
wanna
regroup.
Take a break.
We've been all over the place.
And when we come back, Alan, I'd like you to give us some reason to believe we should be optimistic as we go forward
I'd be happy to do that.
with your leadership and other leadership in our
Other
party.
leadership, but I'd be happy to do that.
We'd really like to have that because I do think there's some reasons to be feeling pretty good.
Don't go far. We'll be right back.
This is the progress report for this Wednesday,
17th.
17th of August.
Yep.
My God,
Better than halfway through.
summer's almost, it's the end of summer.
Such is life. The cycle of life.
Such is life.
You know?
I mean,
Yes.
a
We go through
magical
it, we
summer.
enjoy it, we love it.
Could use a little rain, but it's been a wonderful summer. And we couldn't be more pleased to have the guests that we hoped to have last week, but we have them tonight. Alan Rath, the Manchester City Democratic Chairman. And we're talking about the important election coming up this fall. And I can't.
Have we even mentioned the date? What's the date of the primary?
The 13th.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
13th.
September.
And that's an important vote. The really important one, of course, is the November election. After
Which
the
is November 8th, right?
Yes, correct.
November 8th. That is the one. I mean, the Republicans may be doing very
your
well at
calendars.
nominating pro-Trump people in their primaries, but they have to be crushed in November. Otherwise, this party will never become part of our democratic discourse, small d, in this country again. It'll be all about fascism. Word Alan Rath likes to use, and I agree with him. I think we have the specter
When I was
of
talking
fascism.
about it back in 16, everybody was looking sideways at me.
Well,
like,
you were a
can't
little
talk
premature
like
on
that.
that.
you know?
And
I mean,
Listen, man, I was
it's
I'm
not an
a historian.
overstatement. We are facing the idea of fascism, the cult of. We could go on and on.
Yeah, we'll have another
But
show.
I
on
don't.
that.
I don't.
Yeah, we can do
I
a
don't want to
fascism
go
show.
on about that. But what I'd like to ask Alan about, you've done a great job, I think, as our city chair. You got a lot of good things going on. What is happening, and why should we feel optimistic that we can hold, not only hold the line but advance our cause
Right here in New Hampshire.
Yeah,
Right
yeah, yeah.
here in New Hampshire, and if we can do it in New Hampshire, we can do it everywhere.
Yeah. So I think for as far as Manchester goes, well, I'll talk about the House, the State House. So I think in the House of Representatives, lower house, in the State House, that we have a really good chance of actually flipping it. And I think that 6 months ago, didn't feel like that. And I think that
That is really good news.
yeah, I think that has a lot to do, unfortunately, with the Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade and
Yep,
people
yep.
waking up and saying, "Oh my God, this is something that if we don't do something about this in New Hampshire."
But there's a huge history. We have Republicans in the legislature and candidates who have a long history for years and years and years. We talk about the dog who caught the car. They have been strident because I don't think they ever realized that it could come true.
Yeah.
Classic, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, agreed.
So
I think that's 100%
that
right.
really they have to be made to own that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And are we going to do it?
Yes. I think, like I said earlier, that Senator Sherman in his gubernatorial campaign is doing a great job of tying that to Sununu, and I think,
And as a doctor, he really is an excellent spokesperson for that particular issue.
especially
We have
with
a
the
fine candidate
pandemic,
there.
with
Yeah.
Roe v. Wade, and his experience both in the House and the Senate, and as a doctor, he is a great candidate. And I think that as far as making that stick, it's so important that he keeps hammering about it being on Sununu, that budget was signed by Sununu, because we all know that the top of the ticket could impact the rest of the ticket. So if Sununu
Exactly.
doesn't do as well as he's done in the past, that's really great for us down ballot.
That's right. No
Of course, we have people who go back and forth and who will vote for Sununu and vote for Senator Hassan, and that always happens. But pinning that to him at the top and then tying him, and I think it's really important that we show the Free State Project at the state level to tie the Republican Party to this, because
His leadership, right?
his leadership has
team.
enabled all of this. His leadership team has just said, okay, I don't care how crazy this stuff is, we're going to sign off on this, and we're just going to let you do your thing. And Speaker Packer has done the same, who was not a
And
crazy...
even some of his policy appointments that may have not been Free Staters have been really, I'm thinking education here.
Yeah, Commissioner Edelblut. Yeah, absolutely. So, on the House, and then I'll get to the Executive Council, because I think that that's a really important point to bring up about the Executive Council. But on the House side, I think that the way that we're seeing people react to the Free State Project, and that they are seeing that, oh my God, these people are in our legislatures and there's more of them running again this time. They don't want those people in the legislature. They don't want people who don't believe the government should do anything, because Republicans and Democrats want the government to do something for them, not for it not to exist at all. And whether or not you want conservative policies, you want liberal policies, you believe that the water should be running, the water should be clean, and that you should be able to get
the
electricity
police
to
should
your
come
house.
if you need them. The fire department should come if you need them.
Yeah. So I think that it's important at the state level.
Pay-go thing, Bob? You're not.
I think that we have a duty to make sure that we tie that across the state, saying that the Republican Party in New Hampshire, Governor Sununu, has allowed all this to happen, has allowed these people who don't believe in the United States of America as a concept that they want to follow. They have come into the legislature.
I mean,
They're
again,
running-
this
they're
guy
at the
Warden
gates.
from Ward 8 signed a bill to secede from the Union. How can that be consistent with your oath to uphold the Constitution of
Can
the
you
United
imagine
States?
this happening? Like, if this had
Yeah,
happened,
there were 15 of them, was there?
it was
I'm
12 or 15,
appalled.
yeah.
You know, I mean,
It's terrible. It's sad and it's terrible. But so Free State Project, tie that at the state level for the House. I think that bodes very well for us. I think the Roe versus Wade stuff, although how terrible it is, people have woken up and they know that they need to go to the polls in November to make sure that their rights are protected and that their loved ones' rights are protected. And then at the Executive Council, that is something that we are starting to see how important that is because of
The
Roe v.
contracts.
Wade.
I read the Union Leader. 4 out of 7 contracts were signed. Well, yeah, but the big story is the 3 that weren't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. One, the defunding of places like Lovering Health Center, like Planned Parenthood, like the Equality Health Center that Republicans defunded. And Councilor Warmington's done a great job being the only Democratic voice on the council, but she can't do anything with one vote.
That's
and
right.
People have woken up and seen, okay, if we have a conservative government in power and Governor Sununu is willing to sign an abortion ban into law, we need to have an executive council that can put a check on the governor. And that is where we need to also think about explaining to people how important the executive council is. And we say this every 2 years too, and a lot of people don't know what it does.
right.
And our
It's very
candidate
unique.
is?
Our candidate here is Senator Kevin Kavanaugh. He was the senator in District 16. He ran the special election in 2017 when former Senator Scott McGilvery passed away, unfortunately, but Senator Kavanaugh has served this district really, really well. He is
And
a
he
great,
was abused in redistricting.
abused and redistricting to the point where it was
More
not
than
possible.
anybody else.
Yeah, more than anybody else, which is ironic because working in the state Senate, I know that the Republicans didn't like dealing with anybody more than they liked dealing with Senator Kavanaugh, and now they kicked him out of the Senate. So,
Well, that
he-
just shows you where they're coming from.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
we got a guy we can deal with. Let's
Yeah,
get
let's
rid of this.
Let's get rid of that. Let's get him out of here. So I think that we have the ability. It's going to be tough to take back the majority on the council, but I think that Senator Kavanaugh is a great candidate. He can beat Ted Gatsas. Ted Gatsas has been beaten in Manchester by Joyce Craig twice. Ted Gatsas was beaten by Chris Sununu. Ted Gatsas can be beat by Kevin Kavanaugh, and he will be beaten by Kevin Kavanaugh. I think that we have Mayor Hilliard, who's running in District 1, the mayor of Somersworth. That he's a great candidate. Usually I would say that would be it'd be a really, really tough race to win for him, but he is a great candidate. He's getting out there in the community, and if you run up the numbers in some of those cities that you have the potential to actually make a difference there. So if you get 2 more seats with Cindy Warmington, or Mike Cryans and Cindy Warmington are in a primary for that district right now, but you get 3 seats on the executive council, it's a whole different game. Every contract over $10,000, every contract that we just talked about for critical healthcare services for the state's most vulnerable populations, that's all possible through the executive council. State employees contracts, all of that stuff, it's really important. We need to continue to try to educate people about what it is in a way that they don't just skip it, or they say, okay, I know this name, they're whatever, I'm just going to vote for them, I don't care, I don't know what this position does.
So what do you think about the influence of the big elephant in the room, a guy named Donald J. Trump, could have on this election at these local races?
He had a big influence here in New Hampshire. I mean, Joe Lavasser had Lavasser Trump signs. I mean, he literally made up signs. He took Trump, strapped him to his back, and he's going to carry him up the hill.
I think that works in a lot of places. I think that it works in a lot of in like a race like Joe Kelly's race here, where you have multiple Republican candidates running for something. Is how Trump won, right? He didn't have a majority of all the Republicans. He had a bunch of other people he was running against as Republicans, and so he carved out his brand, and he had more percent than they did. So I think that it's gonna obviously loom large over this election. I think that what's important is that we say, listen, this is what we just got ourselves out of. We just did this in 2020, and I know you felt great about Joe Biden winning, but if you let Congress go any further to the right than it was then, we are going to be in worse shape than you could possibly ever imagine, and that's the fascism creep that I'm talking about, is that it's not over. It wasn't over when Joe Biden won, because the tentacles that Trump has into
ideology
everybody,
is still out there.
It's still out there, and it will be out there even if Trump doesn't run and Ron DeSantis wins.
But
Like,
we can't run against Trump. That's not how a New Hampshire Democrat
exactly.
is going to win
Exactly.
this election.
100%.
We can't just,
100%.
Trump's not on the ballot. That's not.
Right, and that's what I meant. You run on what that video is about. You run on getting things done. You run on.
And we
things
didn't even
people
talk
care
about that. We just got a bill. He just signed it. A bill that is going to help people buy prescription drugs. It's going to
Clean energy.
Excuse me.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I can get my solar panels now because I'm going to get a tax credit that's going to help me pay for them. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
However, we're not going to feel that for a couple of years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it looks great. We're all pumped up today. We got this nice video that came out a day or two ago. But, is that going to translate into votes? Because are people going to feel it?
I think that no, I don't think so. Unfortunately, I think that Joe Biden has done a great job working with what he's had to work with since he became president and undoing
It's been
a lot
an
of it.
amazing
Yeah.
run when you look at the jobs created, the unemployment
the problem
decreased.
with all these good things in this bill, we won't fill until after the election.
Right. So
That's the problem.
the way to still
Like lower
motivate
drug
people.
prescription costs. That'll be after
I think
the
you do have to scare them. We have to scare people. We have
It'll
to
be after the midterms, but it'll
we need
come.
to remain scared and remain vigilant.
I as I was thinking about the show, that very topic came up, Alan. I'm watching TV and a video comes on. Rain's gonna get in your house. You need my windows. It's the scaring is the thing. What Lovecraft said, it's the deepest emotion.
More than love.
Fear.
More than love. Yep.
Come on, do we really have to do that? Because I just feel it's so exploitative. Cannot we appeal to the higher mind?
I
No?
think, I think,
Really?
I think that we always will, because we're Democrats. So we were talking earlier on the break about how, what do we do to combat all of this chaos and this fear and stuff like that? Like, how do we appeal to the higher arguments to, of hope and prosperity for our families and our futures? I think that is important, and we'll continue to do that because that's what Democrats do. We will still be talking about
Working
all the,
together,
We're,
right?
we're going to work together. Life's going to get better for everybody, not just for Democrats. It's for everybody, and so we're going to continue to do that. And we also need to scare people and let them and be. It's not and fear.
It
is
does
not,
work. It works.
and
You're
it's
right.
not. And it's not just gratuitous fear mongering. It's legitimate concern about what can happen in the country if we lose this election in November. Because you saw that there's a Supreme Court case coming up about state legislatures being able to say, "Oh, sorry, the popular vote doesn't matter."
Independent of the election.
Yeah. So that is the Supreme Court.
They're
case.
actually bringing that argument
that's a
in
re-
front
that's
of
a
the
really
United
scary
States Supreme
prospect.
Court
And
with no bashfulness at all.
Nope.
They're just saying it.
Nope. Forget the 17th Amendment. We don't need it. And might as well let the state legislators pick senators too. Like I saw a question was asked at the Republican debate for Senate the other day, and they all pretty much were like, "Yeah, no, that's fine. We don't need popularly elected senators. I'm fine with the legislature." So anyway, we have to say if that is the case, and the Supreme Court, which we can't trust, unfortunately, we should be able to trust the Supreme Court is going to do what they should be doing and what the law says. But I don't think that that's the case anymore. They are cynical. The majority of the court is now
And
cynically
rightly
political.
so. I mean, they've earned the cynicism.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
With
And
their
they've
decisions,
been
not just
working
on
on this for
abortion.
40
I
years.
think people's eyes have just opened. I think the court's been that way. I mean,
Yeah.
You
Sure,
know, you read
sure.
the constitutional law standard, and it's like, really, if you pick your result, you just set the standard and you
Yeah,
get there. You
exactly.
know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And they've been working on it for 40 years. Mitch McConnell been picking these people and making this the game
that's
plan
right.
for years and
That's
years.
absolutely
So I
right.
think it's not just gratuitous fear mongering to get people to vote. It's also saying
Reminding them
that this is what is at stake, and that it's great because Joe Biden's president. We don't have the former president in that office right now, but that doesn't mean that the things that he believed in, it scared us then, can't become realities in November if we lose.
This congressional investigation that we've seen that has revealed so much, and it is undeniable. This stuff, there it is. Okay, there it is. You can look away, but there it is. That'll end. That'll be over, right?
Yeah. And I think
And
that
anything like it.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that they're smart enough to know that they need to ramp up that kind of stuff before the election in November. And I think that the next hearings, they're going to have more hearings, January 6 hearings in September. I think they're going to restart them.
That's what I hear.
So they're going to keep doing that up until the election, and that's important. I think talk about owning the libs and what they're good at. We need to continue to beat the drum about that too. We can't give up and say, all right, well, it doesn't matter. People don't care. Republicans aren't going to change their minds. No, but the average
historical record is being made.
the historical record is
Someone
being
else
made, and the average voter who sees that is going to look at it and can't come to any other conclusion as a rational, good person except to think this is nuts that this happened. That we had an insurrection. Somebody who was about to not be president was willing to forego everything that our country stood for just for power.
That's exactly right. There's no question about it.
It's what happened with Napoleon, right? Like in the Brumaire, he said it worked for Napoleon, and Donald Trump was thinking to himself, maybe it'll work. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll have this little coup, and maybe I'll get to continue to be president.
Well, my enthusiasm has always been for the analogy between us and the history of the Romans, particularly the Roman Empire. And I always said one difference we had, they liked good roads. We liked good roads. They had law codes. They had good, water infrastructure, all this thing. And by the way, they welcome immigrants, which we are not so good about. But one thing I always thought we had, one thing I always had over the Romans was they never figured out how to really, over a long term, transfer power peacefully from one emperor to another. And I said, well, we've got that solved. All of a sudden, we don't have
But we do have it solved.
It worked.
You just got to follow the rule.
Yeah, right, right.
I mean,
it almost didn't.
It's criminal if you don't, and we just got to capture this criminal and
But
and
for
put
the
him
first
behind
time in
bars.
our history, we had a president who would not accept the results of a free and fair election and insisted, to the belief of many millions of Americans, that he was right to say this was not a free and fair election.
Yeah.
That's
I do not believe that the people who claim that that's what they believe really believe it.
I think
I
vast
think
numbers of them do.
I think that that's what they want, and they don't care how they get what they want.
well.
They're babies. They're little babies.
I mean, whatever. I think we're this is why I
I-
like when Alan says fascism is stalking this country. That's what I see.
Oh, absolutely.
The refusal to accept a free and fair election, free of fraud, as the result, giving us the result that we voted for.
But
Yeah.
again, we're talking about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what's coming up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the future that we care about. There are people working on that. And they're not doing it the way I want. I don't know what's going on, so I can't comment on that. But we all know it's got to be taken care of. But there's problems tomorrow that we don't even know what they are. That we have to get ourselves ready for.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
we need infrastructure. We need to get off the fossil fuels.
Absolutely.
This
Imperative.
summer was awful for climate change. I mean, really, do you like your neighborhood burning down out west? You people, is that what you want your reservoir? Can you imagine if Lake Massabesic had a comparable reduction? It would be a puddle you couldn't spit in.
Yeah.
To Lake
Yeah.
Mead. and
You
Lake
know,
Powell,
I mean,
yeah.
this
Yeah.
is serious stuff.
Yeah.
And,
No, it is.
I always hear Republicans, I vote my pocketbook. What's good for me is what I vote for. And it's like,
Yeah. Well, in the short term, maybe, but you won't have a pocketbook anymore.
man, we got to vote for what's good for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that is what we always try to sell, right? That is what Democrats say. We say everybody does better when everybody does better. And that is what we always have to say. And it isn't sexy, and it is not something like chaos and disorder and fear, but saying we are looking at these issues like climate change, like the fact that jobs are going to be going away in a lot of the industries right now because of robots. And, that's a whole other issue that we're going to have to deal with in the
Very
next
much
10,
so,
15
yeah.
years. And we're thinking Democrats should be talking about how we're thinking about all these things. And that's what we have to do. We have to continue to talk about them, chew gum at the same time, and also talk about how dangerous it is for us to go down the path that we almost went down.
Let's take a next break.
Yep.
And then I
We're
want
at
to
that
talk
point.
and then I want to talk to Alan about what the campaign is doing to help us avoid these dire possibilities. And
The mechanics of politics. That ought to be fun. And folks, you
well,
can
it's
call
not
in.
just
We
this-
really would like your help.
Yeah, we would like you to call in
603-640-3091.
3091. We'd love some calls, folks. We always welcome them. We know you're out there. You can call in and be participants. You don't have to agree with us. That's not a requirement. Just call in.
It's better when you don't.
Yeah, it's better when you don't. Sometimes I disagree with this guy, and that makes it really interesting. All right, we'll be
See you
back.
in just a
We'll
minute.
be
Come
we'll be
back.
back
Come back. See you in a
really
minute.
soon. Okay. Hey, everybody, this is the progress report for this Wednesday, August 17th. I'm already anticipating
Stop at the
winter. I
table.
shouldn't do that. And we are very pleased to have with us the Manchester City Democratic Chairman, Alan Rath,
Heartbeat of the New Hampshire Democratic Party.
heartbeat of the New Hampshire Democratic Party. And indeed, we see this election as extremely important. We've been talking about that. I hope you've been watching, and I hope you'll call in if you want a question or comment. We'd love to have that happen. But I thought I'd like to, Alan, talk about, the nuts and bolts of campaigning and winning seats so that we stave off the worst that could happen in these times when the Republican Party has become totally a cult of personality for a certain former president who will stop at nothing and has no scruples on anything. So
I think first, did we fill all the slots? How did we do?
Yeah,
it?
we did. We did actually. It was down to the wire, but it always is. I've
Yep.
told this is my first go around as chair for a midterm election, so we were all stressed out a couple days before trying to find the people in the last minute, and we had.
I gathered that because even my phone started
Oh
ringing.
yeah, oh yeah. So I had friends who were like looking at my phone call, being like, "I know what this is about." Not decline. I think so. Filled all the spots. We have what's great is that we actually not every seat in the entire state gets a Democrat to run in the spot against a Republican, but in Manchester we have a Democrat for every seat, and we have multiple we have some primaries.
Yep.
Yes, you do.
So it's actually something where we had more participation than we needed, which is exactly what we want. We want that enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
And that shows
Absolutely.
enthusiasm,
Yeah, that
right?
shows enthusiasm, and it also, I will say it as a chair, it's important that after the primary, no matter who wins and loses those seats in those primary, or wins the nomination for the party in those primaries, that they get behind whoever those nominees are. Because
Yep.
again, this is not, it's a binary choice. There's
that's
not,
what's happening.
yeah, and so right now,
What's the saying? Don't compare me to the Almighty. Compare me to the alternative.
yeah, exactly. And I think that is something that I'll be reiterating come September 13th. And what the greater New Hampshire Democratic Party is doing is what they are great at doing and have been great at doing for a long time, which is setting up a coordinated campaign across the state, which binds the Senate campaigns, the House campaigns, and then the local campaigns. So like the city campaigns in our in this example, and sets up an office. So our office is at 264 Mammoth Road, over near the Rite Aid and CVS, over near Billy's Sports Bar, where the old what was it? Building 19 used to be, and
I remember that.
Mammoth Mills.
Yeah,
For all your real old folks,
yeah,
it was Mammoth Mills.
Yeah. So every day we have entire staff there who is ready to take volunteers. We have people coming
Every
in
day.
every day, and people can go in. They can grab a packet to go knock doors. They can make phone calls. They can help bundle literature for people to go out. There's so many ways to help, and that honestly.
And how is the canvas effort going? I mean, I know they're appealing every time.
Yeah, it's always this right now. It's starting to heat up. We've been making the push since June for people to come in and start knocking doors for us, and it's always like pulling teeth in June and July to get folks to come out and knock doors when it's when it's been as hot as it's been. Two, when they're thinking, oh man, the average person is sitting there being like, the election's in November. Why am I doing this in July? But now you've started to see, and thanks to our great candidates who are running, have taken the lead on this. They're going out knocking doors, bringing their friends and family to go knock on doors, getting volunteers to come in the door. So it's really starting to pick up right now. And the thing to think about is that you, in some of these, as you guys know here in the city, some of these races can be won by 15 votes.
Mm-hmm.
So that really is a day of canvassing for somebody. That could be me and my wife Ashley going out and knocking 2 packets, and that could make a difference. In
2 packets?
Yeah, well, but between one each.
Those packets are pretty big. I
Yeah,
mean, that's a lot of door knocking.
Yeah, well, it depends on the area you're going. And sometimes
You're a
you
young
get
guy,
lucky
you can
and
do
you
it.
get townhouses next to each other, so you bing bang boom. But the thing to think about is that they can be won by a day of work by you, and that it's daunting to think about when we ask you to come out every weekend. I understand thinking, I don't want to come out every weekend and spend 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday knocking doors. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to do it every weekend. We need whatever time that you can give and that you are willing to give to this really important issue that we've been talking about for the past hour. That's what you need to do for us to win, and we win in the margins, and that's why Democrats do
This
win.
is
in
so
close.
important.
Yeah, it is, and everybody always says, I don't know if door knocking really works. I don't know if the phone banking really works. Maybe we're just annoying people. People aren't going to be annoyed by you knocking on their door more than once,
No,
even if
that's
they
right.
say that they are.
This is New Hampshire.
This is
Yeah,
New
We
Hampshire.
know what this is.
Yeah.
We see it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
We know
Yeah.
what this
Yeah.
is.
This
is really
I
excellent.
get a real kick out of the Republican door knockers who don't have the great lists that the Democrats do, and they come and walk
come to
up
my house.
past
Yeah.
all 5 of my signs,
Yep.
and yet still ask me who I'm going to vote.
I'm happy that they're wasting their time. I'm happy that they're wasting their time. I'm like, you just missed the Jehovah's Witnesses. Good to see you guys. You didn't see the mezuzah on the door either. I think the way to win is that just doing every part that you can do, and you can help with mailings, and that's like something you don't have to go knock doors. You can sit and help stamp, lick, and seal and stuff
The
on
old-
envelopes.
the old
Stuff
time
those
stuff.
absentee ballot applications.
Yeah, and that's really important. So the city will have a program for absentee ballots and absentee ballot tracing, making sure that we know when people are turning them in and then going back and chasing the people that haven't turned them in. And that's been really successful the last couple of rounds of elections that we've had here in
that's
Manchester.
money in the bank.
That's
That-
money in the bank.
Yep.
And I think that's why it's also really important that we continue to push to have the absentee ballot restrictions that the Republicans want to put on them to make sure that they stay away and that we allow.
Yeah.
as
You know,
many people to-
why aren't we opening up voting? Why are we, I used an absentee ballot for the first time during COVID. It was fantastic. I
Pretty
really,
easy.
I wish I could do it again. Why can't I vote that way? It was secure. I physically dropped it off at the clerk's office.
Lies of fraud and cheating is why you can't
Yeah.
do it. There's absolutely no basis in
Is
fact.
that not projecting?
I think that we all know that this is why this is a problem, is that there's no actual issue with us opening up voting. Ideally, you would think that both parties would want as many people to vote as possible because then
That's not reality.
Right, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's not reality. They don't want
Not-
that because
the
they
Republicans
know.
want to suppress the vote.
Right.
I see they deny it, but the fact is that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
They want to be able to
Well, the
control
statistics
government with
show
minority
why. I mean,
results.
it's
When
pretty
we all
obvious.
vote, we win.
Yeah.
If we get our people
If
out.
we have to get more than 50% to win.
Yeah.
Because they've already gerrymandered things so that they don't work out to you get 50 plus 1, you win.
Yep.
No, you got to do better than that.
Yep.
And
That's true.
That's what we got to do, and but I've been up there a few times. When you're launching your canvases, and I've been out on a couple of canvases myself. It seems to me like the enthusiasm of participation is pretty good.
It is. I think that it is, and I think that it is because like I said, the candidates have really taken it upon themselves to be enthusiastic and to get people out. They're actually doing what we're always told to do with organizing and networking for politics, which is get your friends and family to come and knock doors with you, and
That's
then
what you
they
wanna
get their
do.
friends and families to come and knock doors
Yeah.
with you, and they've taken a lead. They're taking all their campaigns serious. And we have a lot of first-time candidates who are extremely, extremely awesome people who are
Yes, you do.
and they're really enthusiastic, excited to do it, and that kind of thing drives other people to get excited and do it.
Yeah.
So that is something to be positive or have a positive outlook towards. I think that we got some great candidates. We're gonna kick butt and we're gonna knock those doors and we're gonna keep talking to people and telling them why we stand for doing something for you, helping you and your family, and not just telling you how terrible things are and how much worse they're going to get.
So if the Republicans' voter suppression efforts, more requirements to vote, register on
Stupid
voting
ID
day,
requirement.
are those a real threat, or are we basically?
I think they're always. Do I think that their voter suppression efforts, I think, are definitely a real threat, and it just takes us to blink on this stuff and go past something that could be.
But we can overcome it with enough.
Absolutely.
person
Yeah, but at
power
some
on-
point you can't out-organize suppression.
Yeah.
At some
Yeah.
point you just can't.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
we
you can't.
can. We're good at it.
Yeah.
I say we. You guys, you Democrats.
Yeah.
I'm a Democrat too, but you're
Yeah.
doing the organizing, not me anymore.
No, we are good at, and you're right though, and that's why it's so important that we continue to be out there and be talking to people about this being at risk. And it's a chilling effect, right? Because some people who like some of the voter ID laws and the voter suppression laws that they want to pass wouldn't affect you or me or you, but it might affect a first-time voter thinking about, oh, can I vote here? Am I voting in the right place? Well, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to stay home. I'm not really sure. It's all about muddying the waters to the point where they're not sure about something, and now they don't care enough about it to go out and vote, and that's what they want.
And
Now, this time, is it this election for the first time we're going to have some provisional votes that won't be counted on election day?
I think that's the way that it's going to work now.
It's
yeah.
going to, if you come in and you don't have a proof of residency,
You have a 7-day period of time.
Yeah, you have to come in with 7 days. So we may not get all the results we want as quickly as we want if they're going to have to wait and see what these.
Which is ironic, right? Because they all want the same.
It's not ironic at all. It's not ironic at all. What that does is it creates doubt on election night, and people can come out and not concede, and everything that we saw
Yeah.
can happen again on a little smaller level.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, come on, dear God, can't we see this?
Yeah.
Dear Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous. Listen, I don't want to be guilty. I heard the greatest thing. A lot of Republicans say, I know Trump won because everybody I know voted for Trump. I don't want to be guilty of that. But what I have seen since the Roe v. Wade opinion was leaked, but really acutely since the decision came out, just about every woman that I know or know of through other people are political.
Yep.
And
Fired up.
I know
And they're not happy.
conservative Republican women who
They're saying, what the
they've
hell is
had
going
it.
on? Yeah. Yep. They talk about the soccer
And,
moms they've been trying to get forever.
We have these discussions, and people get agitated. I mean, they're. I'm usually the guy getting agitated. You know what I'm saying, Bob? You know this. You know, but I mean, talk about motivation. We're not going to forget that issue, are we?
No, absolutely not. And I can say that just in my personal experience, like you were just saying, I don't want to say that, I'm hearing all these people say this, but in my own personal circle, people who didn't care about
I've
politics.
never seen it in my life.
Yeah,
With the
have
to
messaged
the
me and said,
level
how
of-
can
yeah.
I help?
Yeah.
What can I do? People who I grew up with here, who live in town now, who haven't wanted to get engaged with politics at all. They see me posting all the crap on Facebook and social media all the time and have never once responded to me inviting them to come to Manchester Democrats meetings. Now they're like, how do I get involved? When do I go? When can I show up? What
Yeah.
can I do? And that should be the thing that should give us encouragement. That's the kind of thing that we should. And guess what? Women want to control their own bodies. All women do.
They do.
And if they
really
say that
do.
they don't, they're lying. So that is something that we have to take to the bank and to remind
I have a
people
woman
about.
at the church I go to, your church, and she said last Sunday I was at the church, and she said, I'm going out and I'm canvassing. I said, well, good, glad to hear it. She said, and I hate it, but I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah. And again, like I said, you don't have to do it twice a weekend, every weekend until November. You do it when you can, and you do it honestly, when you feel fired up about it and you're getting pissed off about the kind of stuff that you're hearing,
Yep.
that's the weekend you go. Because you're going to talk people on
You're
the
gonna be a
doors.
passionate
you're going to be a
advocate,
passionate
right?
advocate, and people are going to respond to that on the doors.
Yeah.
So listen, we're getting to the end. We got a couple more minutes, and they go fast toward the end of the show. Phone numbers. You want to give that address again?
Yep.
You know,
264 Mammoth Road, right, like I said, over by the Rite Aid, and it is next to a Chinese restaurant and a
Same
mattress
place-
store.
same place
Same
we've
place that
worked
it's
out of
been.
the-
And
Yep,
a lot
yep.
of signs for Democrats.
Yeah,
so you won't
can't
miss it.
can't miss it. And it's not just there. If you have friends in other towns, there are coordinated campaign offices popping up all around the state. So Nashua, Concord, on the seacoast, up in the North Country, they're popping up everywhere, and they can direct you. And say you're from Bedford or you're from Goffstown, you can go to the Manchester office, and we can set you up with what you need at the Manchester office to go knock doors in your own community too. So that's an important thing for everybody to know is that
It's coordinated.
It's coordinated.
Imagine
yeah,
that.
we can figure everything out for you, and I think that together we are going to come out on top here in November, and we can beat back this fear that we're talking about, and actually feel really great about some great new, young, first-time candidates who are coming out and want to do the work that we all want them to do.
And
We'll have to do it again. We're going to have candidates on the show. We want to introduce.
We'll be helping.
I'll be sending
everywhere-
them to you. I'll be sending them
everywhere,
to you.
And you can talk to us about what you'd
Yeah.
like us to do. And I want to thank you for doing what you're doing. I think we're so fortunate to have somebody of your caliber to do the job you're doing with all the skills and knowledge and expertise you have. I think we're just very, very fortunate. And I think we're going to turn things around.
I'm feeling better at the end of the show than I did coming in, because of course the prevailing for how many months the Democrats are going to lose the House. That I mean, there was just it was.
And that's a lot to say. That's an important thing to recognize, though, is that when Democrats feel browbeaten and down about stuff, they aren't as motivated. So it's important for us to keep up the momentum and keep
Yeah,
saying
but
that
there's
we have
really-
a chance.
I mean,
We
this is
really do
seriously
have a
a
chance.
shot.
Yeah,
With folks like you, carrying the message, I think we can feel upbeat, and we should.
we should.
We should. Very
And
good.
thank you guys.
Well, another fun hour of the Progress Report has come to an end, Bob. I don't know if we hit all the topics. There were so many things that came to mind and went away.
We could
but-
go on for a while, but we will call it up because it is time for us to exit.
Yep. Well, folks, we're going to, as we said, we're going to be starting our political coverage. We'll have a lot of great candidates. Plan your viewing time, and please call in. Not that these next few weeks are going to be the time to actually ask the questions of the people that are going to be on
I'm
your
happy
ballot.
to say we have a request from Dr. Tom Sherman to be on our show. We're certainly going to have
We'll
that
have him
happen.
on. Yep.
And Donna Susi also requested, so we're going to definitely do that because this is a really important time in our country. And
Might even be the most important election of our lifetime.
we say
I
that
had
every
to
time.
slide that in.
I
Folks,
think-
thanks for
I
watching
think
the
it's
show.
more true now than it was the last time we said it. All right.
Thanks
Take
very
care.
much for watching. We'll see you next week, folks.
Yeah.